and welcome back to the second half of our news.
Vaka te Auotunga finally set sail this morning, bound for American Samoa. The conditions couldn't be more perfect.
It's very fortunate that we delayed the departure a good 12 hours, because now the conditions are very, very good for us. We'll get more daylight hours to actually shake down the Vaka before we go into nightfall. So very ideal.
If you look out here, we're in the lee, so it's flat. But if you get outside the lee of the island, then it gets a bit lumpy out there. It's all right.
Late yesterday afternoon, crowds congregated at Awatu Harbour. A small ceremony was held to bid them good tidings on their journey.
We thank you all for being here, sending us off.
God bless.
Although the 16-member crew was originally scheduled to leave late yesterday afternoon, it was decided that today would provide a much better learning ground.
There's too many small jobs to finish off last night that I wanted to finish off, and I didn't want to take a new crew to sea. You know, if we went out there just before sunset, you've got a new crew that's their first watches are in darkness, which is not very cool. So if we can get them a full day, their first watches will be in daylight. And we certainly need to run the drills that we haven't been running because we just didn't have enough time. So we'll get out there, we'll be doing basic drills during daylight hours, get the basics squared away. And when the night watch comes, the guys on watch will be comfortable with what they need to do. And the weather's pretty good for it, yeah.
Is there any danger in doing drills out there than opposed to...
That's the best place to drill. You get out there, simple things like setting your sails properly, a few firefighting drills, life raft drills, just very basic things, but things they need to know. Yeah.
Primarily, we'll be using the celestial bodies and we're navigating by the stars. And as a backup, we have all the other modern equipment as well. We're using this voyage as a learning curve and a teaching curve for the new crew members. We get them touched on to the traditional navigation and identifying the different constellations and stars and stuff before, so that when we move on to the next other voyages to come, they'll at least have an idea of what to expect.
At least 4 days behind the original schedule, they won't make it by the opening of the festival, which begins this Sunday in Pangopango, but they will get there safely.
796 nautical miles. If we can get the canoe up to 5 knots, we should be there in 6.5 days. It's very rarely that the canoe travels at 5 knots unless there's actually absolutely no wind. So this canoe here can average about 7.5 to 8.5 knots. So we're looking at a pretty good passage.
True to form, still waiting on those very last-minute matters to subside.
I'm waiting for it's the paperwork. I've got some paperwork coming in before we go. Yeah.
What sort of paperwork is that?
It's just clearances, making sure I got enough copies of the customs clearances. Because if I don't have enough copies, I go to Pango, and they're quite meticulous in the bureaucracy. So I always like to keep them happy.
So what will happen once you get into the...
Well, it's like you get off the plane. Immigration clearance, customs clearance, they check the documents from the last port, crew list, passports, all that sort of stuff. Quarantine, they're very tough on quarantine. So agriculture will be there. And then we'll get a berthing space, then we'll go off and berth there or anchor off somewhere and then relax.
Every nautical mile will be recorded by the onboard crew of one. Before leaving the island, he was able to organise a website for those unable to go to the 10th Pacific Festival of Arts.
We've got a website up, voyaging.co.ck, but I will be doing regular updates twice a day on that, and we'll also be updating people on radio as well, 88 FM.
Last goodbyes for families and friends who won't see their loved ones for another 3 to 4 weeks. A blessing to send them on their way.
Esto, mana nui e mea tapu Marino te moana te rangi te enua Marino te au mea katoa E mana nui e mea tapu e orama ki au mere
Right now I'd like to say thank you very much to all the Cook Islands people because there's been so much, since we moved the Vaka into town, there's been so much support from the communities and the different factions of community and from the Voyaging Society and all the crew members. You don't know how much that means to us. It just makes our trip even more meaningful in that we know that we are representing a broader span of the community, and we take you all in our hearts when we go on this voyage.
The crew is set to berth in Pangopango either Monday or Tuesday. This is Kauni Himapo for tonight's CITC and Watu Local News.
And that's the end of tonight's local news brought to you by CITC and Watu. From all of us here at CITV, kia ora and good night.